What is up guys, my name's Zach and welcome to the Chaos Galaxy. Today we're carrying on with day 2 of our deck profile Chaos Galaxy video bonanza week that I still don't have a name for, but anyway, today we're doing a deck based around one of the fan favourite cards from set 2, which is this guy here, Diabocadra. Just before I get started, I want to say as well, thank you again for 15,000 subscribers and 2 million views. That's why I'm doing this quick series. Also, if you want to suggest any decks that you'd like to see in the next 5 days, in the description below, and I'll do my best to try and show decks that you guys want to see. And also, if you want to get your hands on any of these cards, there'll be a link in the description below to the online store to buy some Chaos Galaxy packs. So, let's go ahead with the deck profile. So, the main card in this deck is Diabocadra. We're using 2 copies of it, and if you don't know what it does, it's a bit of a strange card. It's got 7 stars, question mark power and question mark health. And this creature's power and health are equal to the combined total powers and healths of all your killed 1 and 2 star Palicium creatures. So the more killed 1 or 2 star Palicium creatures there are, the stronger this card's going to be. And it can get ridiculously powerful to over like 700, 800 power, which is fantastic. And this is what the deck revolves around. The planet card we're using is of course the planet Palicium. This is pretty much a completely Palicium based galaxy, and this allows you to kill 2 weaker Palicium creatures to bring out a stronger Palicium creature, like your 2 copies of Diabocadra that we're using. For the other boss monsters, we're using 1 copy of Kranchon, the strongest power out of any card in the game, so I thought I'd just throw him in there. And then 1 mystical beast of the deep, because when he's killed, you get to recycle 1 of your strong Palicium creatures, put it back in your hand, so you can just reuse a Diabocadra. Then the last boss monster we're using is 1 copy of Elite Transponge. I was thinking of maybe taking this out, but it is quite nice to have in there, just for the cost of 1 star and a very weak creature. So, they're all the boss monsters. And we'll get to the weaker creatures now. So most of these are going to be 1 or 2 star creatures that you're using to power up your Diabocadra through its ability. So the first one we're using is 2 copies of Bubbo. This is one of the best cards in the galaxy. He has the highest stats out of any of these weak Palicium creatures, so he boosts your Diabocadra up by the most. So 2 copies of him. We're then using 2 copies of Nanoray Elasmabon. I was thinking of adding a little Nanoray engine in here because they are quite a big archetype that got released with the starter decks. However, in the end I just opted to solely focus on Diabocadra. The last 2 star we're using is 2 copies of Doople Drop. Although his stats are low and he doesn't really add much to Diabocadra's power, he allows you to play a card for free using the ability of the planet Palicium, so he's very useful. So they're the 6 2 stars we're using. Now for the 1 stars we've got 2 copies of Cryocross. I only had 1 rare one around, so the deck isn't fully blinged out unfortunately. But he's a very versatile card, 70 power, and he can attach himself to give another Palicium creature an extra 70 power, which is handy. 2 copies of Transponge, gives your Diabocadra an extra 90 health, and obviously we need it for the Elite Transponge. And then 2 copies of Schwaggle. I was thinking of only using 1, but the fact that he's a 1 star makes him very important for something I'll show you later. And the last creature I'm using, I'm just kind of teching in, just trying out 1 copy of Guster. PDF TCG did a deck profile, and this was one of the key cards of it, and ever since then I've kind of appreciated the card more, so I've just tried to try him out in this galaxy. So just remove your opponent's zones and slow them down. So that's all the creatures. It's quite a big creature count, but now I'll get to the permanent resource cards. So I've got 1 copy of the Sacred Reef. Really good card in this deck. It doubles the power and health of all your 1 or 2 star Palicium creatures. So it turns Bubbo into, if I can just find him, turns Bubbo into 220 power and health, like really solid 4 star card pretty much, which is fantastic. The only reason I don't use 2 is because it doubles the original power, not its current power. So you couldn't play 1 Sacred Reef to double your Bubbo, and then play another Sacred Reef to double it again to 440. If you had 2 Sacred Reefs on your planet, Bubbo's power would just stay at 220, so that's why I only use 1. I've then got 1 copy of Galafection, a card that hasn't seen much play, but when either player's turn ends, both players kill the top card of their galaxy. And because you use so many 1 or 2 star Palicium creatures, a lot of the time you're going to be killing these from your galaxy to just fuel up your Diabocadra for later in the game. Also, this is really good for stopping some of your opponent's plays too. If they have some crucial cards in their galaxy, having this card kill them off can be really helpful. I've got one copy of Slush Infestation because I think it's a bit of a staple card in these decks, and that's it for the permanent resource cards. The single-use resource cards, I've got 2 copies of Starpath. Because we use so many weak creatures, stars aren't really going to be something we'll have to worry about. You can pile up a load of stars, and then you pay in multiples of 4 to draw that many cards, and it just lets you draw into your Diabocadras quicker, draw into your weaker creatures so you can cycle through them, and so on. Then got 2 copies of Double Wormhole, this kind of to counteract cards like Galafection, just lets you shuffle back in strong cards to your deck, and then replay like your Diabocadras and something later in the game. Then got 1 copy of Swirlpool, just to get your Bubbos and things to your hand quicker. And then 1 copy of Charge Blaster. Like I said before, we have quite a few weak creatures, so stars don't matter too much. And also this just kills your opponent's monsters that your weak creatures might not be able to get over. And then finally we've got 1 copy of Galaxy Crash, because that's all we're allowed. Okay, so next up for the attachment cards, I've got 2 copies of KO. Pretty much a staple in all my decks again. You'll see like themes of KO and Galaxy Crashes coming up in all these deck profiles. Then 2 copies of one of my favourite cards, Starship XXS. One of the most powerful, probably the most powerful stat boosting card in the game. Attach it to any 1-star creature and its power just becomes 400. So you can have a Schwaggle that can kill a Kranchon pretty much, which is quite funny. And coming up in set 3, there's going to be a lot more cards related to this archetype. So we've got extra small rescue here and Gombajabble, which support 1-star creatures. So they're going to be really fun to play around with in the future. But unfortunately, they've not been released yet. So 2 copies of Starship XXS does the job. We've then got 1 copy of Double-Sided Spear. You attach this to a creature, and then the creature that kills it gets killed too. So if you're just waiting to stall out, you can put like a Transponge down and attach it to a Double-Sided Spear, and although the Transponge is ridiculously weak, your opponent's going to be pretty scared to attack into it. And then for the activator cards, I've got 1 copy of Super Splot. When you play a 3-star or less Palicium creature, which we use so many of, you get to kill any resource or attachment card on the planet. And then we've got 1 Beast of the Black Hole. So that was the deck list for my Diabocadra deck. Let me know if there were any changes you've made to this deck, if there are any cards you think should be in there, any cards I didn't think about which should be in there. I'd love to hear your own take on this deck. But apart from that, got nothing much to say, but please like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Instagram, get your hands on some Chaos Galaxy cards. There'll be a link to the online store in the description. And stay tuned for tomorrow when there'll be my next deck profile out. Bye.